Hello.
Hello.
Hello. It's Friday.
And it's sunny outside.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with this weather today.
It's beautiful.
Today is actually not Friday.
It's
when
not.
you all hear this,
It's a Monday
maybe
for us.
if you listen to it the second it comes out. I know you guys tie your whole entire lives around this podcast.
I mean, you can listen to it immediately as soon as it drops.
Yeah. Because you have good taste in all things.
You love us.
This is the Witches, Magic, Murder, and Mystery podcast.
And I'm Kara.
And I'm Megan.
Hey.
We got to do our 10 seconds of silence. What's that noise? It's like...
It's the computer. Like, for some reason, it turned back on.
Is it having a problem?
I don't know. Like, what? It's like loading all the things.
It seems like it's having... It's a cool tree, though.
I don't... Well, it just, like, going from looking at that to that, I'm like, oh. Said y'all can't look at this. Yeah. Anything to do with this.
Let's see. It's Friday. Do we have anything?
Special announcements.
I don't feel like we do. If you're in the Patreon, on the Janet's level, our live chat is tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern.
Uh-huh.
So you can go on the Patreon. You'll find the link for that. We're just going to do it in Google Hangouts tonight. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to just like, I don't know. You can, so if you guys want to participate, if you want to show your faces on the screen, you are welcome to. Don't feel pressured. I know sometimes I don't want that to be a reason that you don't join in. I think it's going to be really fun. So the idea is that it'll be current true crime news, and it's going to be like an open conversation. Don't feel like you're just there to like listen to us give some sort of lecture,
because that's not at all us.
It's going to be just a big conversation. I'm really excited because I like all you guys.
Yeah.
But also feel free to jump in, you know?
Well, yeah. And also, like, if you're in the Facebook group, but you're not in Patreon, like, you can subscribe and cancel it. Like, just so you can do that.
You just want to join in tonight? Yeah, totally. So I'm excited for that. And that's one of my favorite new perks that we've added to the Patreon, just because, I don't know, I think you guys are great.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So I'm not going to even tell you what kind of story this is yet.
Okay.
I'm just going to
jump in.
I also am trying something different. Usually, you guys, I like write out my whole episode. And I like write out it's kind of stream of consciousness typing everything as I'm researching it. And then I read it to you guys. This time, mainly because of the YouTube video, I hate how often I sit here and stare at my computer and read it. So this time I'm trying bullet points. Oh, this could either be great or terrible. It also may not matter at all. But
I don't know if my brain would remember everything, but I can't wait to hear this.
We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
All right. So last weekend, my friend Austin and I went to see Waitress.
Oh, I saw your post about that. That's so fun. I love Austin.
I was so excited. Oh, I love Austin. Yeah, she's great. And I was so excited to see Waitress. So the song in Waitress, She Used to Be Mine. Mm-hmm. I cannot hear that song without crying. I've heard it a million times. Makes me cry every time. I completely fall apart. Someone's coming in. Anyway, okay.
Anywho.
All right, so let me go back to
she was song.
Yes. So yeah, She Used to Be Mine. It kills me every time. And I had already warned Austin. I've never seen the play, but the song just gets me. And I already warned Austin. I was like, listen, when that song comes up, I'm going to lose it. So I just want you to be ready. And I was right.
Just be prepared with the tissues.
I mean, you guys, I don't know if everyone knows this about me, but I'm a huge football fan. And so the fact that I missed the Super Bowl to go to Waitress really tells you how badly I wanted to see it.
Oh,
Plus, it was that 90s halftime show, and it was the Bengals in the Super Bowl. I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons that it was going to be a great Super Bowl to watch.
Yeah, it was.
But I went to Waitress because I needed to see it. And I loved it, and I completely fell apart and sobbed during She Used to Be Mine, and Austin had to put her hand around me like, are you okay? And I was like,
sweet Austin.
Yeah. So, one thing I didn't realize is that there's a movie called Waitress. Mm-hmm. That is what this musical came from. And I didn't know that. I had seen parts of the movie. It had Kerry Russell and Nathan Fillion in it.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
I've never watched the whole thing, but I've seen bits and pieces of it. And so as I was watching the play, I was like, oh, wait, this is familiar. And then I realized it all came together. And the movie is Waitress and the musical is Waitress. So you would have think I would have connected these dots earlier, but I didn't. Okay. So the musical was adapted from the movie, and all the songs and lyrics were written by Sarah Bareilles.
Oh, I love it.
I typed her name phonetically, so I'd be sure not to mispronounce it.
Yes.
I love it too. And that's how I ever found it, is because I loved her.
Yeah.
And as I was just listening to her music is how I found She Used to Be Mine years ago.
Right.
And became obsessed with it and then wanted to see The Waitress. So
Yeah.
I was really excited that it all came together. So the movie was written and directed by a woman named Adrienne Shelly. That's her stage name. Her real name was Adrienne Levine.
Okay.
Maybe Levine, but probably Levine.
We're going to go with it.
So, Adrienne was born in 1966 in Queens, New York, and she was raised in Long Island with her two brothers. And she was this really like fun, creative kid. She started performing on stage when she was about 10, and then she made her professional stage debut in high school during a summer production of Annie.
Well.
She went to Boston College, majored in film production,
Okay.
but she left after her junior year and just moved to Manhattan. So she started out in front of the camera, and she kind of like had this breakthrough because she got a lead in a couple of indie films. One was The Unbelievable Truth, and the other one was Trust. Trust was nominated for a prize at the Sundance Film Festival.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, so she kind of became known as like this kind of indie darling. And then she guest starred in several TV series, including Law and Order, Oz, and Homicide: Life on the Streets.
Oh.
And then she had major roles in a bunch of off-Broadway plays. So she was pretty successful,
Yeah.
you know, as an actor. I don't think we're allowed to say actress anymore. Okay, so let's say it again. She was pretty successful as an actor. By her late 20s, though, I mean, late 20s is not old, right?
No.
But she was less enamored with the whole Hollywood
Okay.
thing for all the reasons that we can guess, right? Like,
right.
she was tired of this, like, I have to say yes to everything. I've got to be sexy all the time. I have to stay
just
hot.
that typical lifestyle.
Yeah, just as a woman in Hollywood, you're not allowed to grow old.
Yep.
So on her 30th birthday, she said, I think I spent a lot of my 20s as if I was in some dark adventure of some kind. Not really feeling myself alive. And I feel like a real desire to not live my life that way anymore, which I just love.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I turned 30 having this kind of like, what am I doing?
Yeah, what's
You know?
happening? Mm-hmm.
And then at 40, you have it again. And I'm like real excited what happens at 50.
Yeah.
Because it's like 30, 40, like keep leveling up. And by
can't wait.
50, I expect to just take over the world.
Yep.
So that's when Adrienne started transitioning to behind the camera. And she developed her own little production company. She wrote and directed a 1999 movie called I'll Take You There. It has Ali Sheedy in it. So I feel like I've seen it. When I looked it up, I was like, this looks familiar to me. And Adrienne also appeared in that film.
Okay.
And that film went on to win a few awards. It was the U.S. Comedy Arts Festival Film Discovery Jury Award in 2000 for direction. So for her direction, she won this award. Prize of the City of Setúbal. Special mention at an international film festival in Portugal for Best Director. So she was good at what she was
all
doing.
over. Yeah.
Yeah. But her passion project that she loved and worked for years on was Waitress.
Oh.
She wrote it while she was pregnant with her daughter, Sophie. Also,
Sophie.
I know. In this time, she got married, too, to a guy named Andy. They met on Match.com. They were super happy. And then they had a little daughter named Sophie. So Waitress is this dark, quirky comedy drama.
Okay.
They called it like a dramedy. It was written, directed, and co-starred is what she did in it. So she wrote it, she directed it, she co-starred in it. She played Dawn. So if you guys have seen it, she played Dawn, which is like the funny little, well, they're all pretty funny, but and then she also did the set and costume design.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was super involved.
Busy bee.
So Waitress tells the story of Jenna, a waitress in a diner who is trapped in this abusive marriage. She's married to this guy named Earl. He's terrible.
Goodbye, Earl.
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking of too. So then she finds out that she's pregnant, and she's in this very small town. She finds out she's pregnant. She didn't want to be pregnant. And then she ends up having an affair with her doctor. In town, she's known for making these amazing pies. And someone suggests that she enter this pie contest that's happening nearby because there's this big money prize.
Okay.
And so in her head, she's like, okay, that's how I get out. Like, she doesn't want to give up the baby. She wants to have the baby. She just doesn't want to be stuck in this marriage. And she feels like there's no way out. And like I said, he's awful. He's abusive. He's terrible.
Right.
So, the movie premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 2007, starring Kerry Russell, Nathan Fillion, Cheryl Hines, and Adrienne Shelly, and also Andy Griffith was in it. I don't know if I've ever told you guys this. Andy Griffith and my papa are like
the same human being.
They are. Mm-hmm. They have the same like wavy hair, the same accent, and the way they talk, just their general affect. They're the same.
It's just amazing.
So I always equate Andy Griffith to my papa.
So cute.
It's great.
I love it so much.
The movie was so well received at the Sundance Film Festival that it was bought by Fox Searchlight Pictures for $4 to $5 million. The number differs, depending on your news article, and it had a limited theater release. It was also well received in theaters. It has like a 7.3 out of 10 rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is good because Rotten Tomatoes.
They will. Yeah,
and it made their 2007 list of top 100 movies.
Oh wow.
Nominated and won several awards. So, like, this was her passion project.
Yeah.
And it really did well.
Wow.
And then producers Barry and Fran Weissler, probably, purchased the stage rights shortly after the movie release. And it's the first Broadway musical with an all-female principal creative team.
Oh.
Has Diane Paulus as the director, Sarah Bareilles as the music writer and lyricist, Jesse Nelson, book adapter, and Lauren Lataro, choreographer. It premiered on Broadway in 2016 and stayed there until 2020, which I think it got shut down because of COVID.
Yeah.
The national tour began in 2017, and like I said, I just went and saw it, so it's still going on.
Yeah.
It toured in London and played the West End 2019 to 2021. Returned to Broadway in September 2021, and in that one, Sarah Bareilles played Jenna.
Oh.
I can't imagine getting to see her sing the songs that she wrote.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It was not quite as well received as a play as the movie was, but it was still nominated for a bunch of awards and it won a few. Adrienne never got to see any of this. She died November 1st, 2006, just a few weeks before she would have found out that it was accepted to the Sundance Film Festival.
Oh my gosh.
So she didn't get to see
any of it.
She had to make the movie.
Yeah.
They submitted it to Sundance. You know, you're hoping, like, that's a huge breakthrough if it gets accepted, but she never even, just a few weeks before she would have found out. So, on November 1st, 2006, she and her husband, they had an apartment, townhome, I think, with their daughter. But she had this state? New York.
Okay.
She had this 1-bedroom apartment that she rented and used as an office, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
Having to have like sort of a separate space.
Yeah.
They had a nanny that stayed home with their daughter. Her husband, Andy, dropped her off at her office at 9:30 in the morning. And as the day went on, he was like, it was weird that I didn't hear from her. Like, it was just strange. And he tried emailing, he tried calling her cell phone, he tried calling her landline, never could get a hold of her. And he's like, it's just strange. Usually, they check in throughout the day.
Right.
Especially if she sees she's got missed calls.
Yeah.
She would respond. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, he shows up to pick her up. He gets up there, he presses the little button, like intercom. Mm-hmm. She doesn't answer. So then he was like, he went to the doorman and he was like, I've been trying to get a hold of her all day. Can you just take me up there?
Yeah.
So they go up there. And the door is unlocked.
Oh.
And Andy said that's when the real panic set in. He said it was really weird just how still everything was. Ooh. And the TV was on. And he was like, Wolf Blitzer was on the screen talking, giving the news. Mm-hmm. And the doorman stayed at the door while Andy went through the apartment.
Oh.
And then the doorman hears Andy start screaming.
Oh, no.
And he's just saying, why? Andy had found her body in the bathroom, hanging from the shower rod, with a bed sheet around her neck.
Oh, no.
There was no sign of a struggle, no sign of forced entry. Obviously, it looks like a suicide.
Yeah.
The police are just like, it's a suicide. And, she kind of fits that, creative, whatever. And she's got, she's committed suicide. I even found there's a New York Post article where the headline is like, actress suicide stuns family. Like that was the headline on the front of the New York Post.
Ugh.
And the autopsy said that she died of neck compression.
Right.
To go along with the suicide. But Andy was like, there's absolutely not. Yeah. No. And, I feel like that happens a lot. People don't want to accept that their loved one would die by suicide.
Right.
Sorry.
Do you need another water?
I probably do.
Do you want to drink my cold brew? It has oat milk in it.
That was a little tiny drink.
Hey, guys. We're besties. We share.
So he was like, listen, she's personally and professionally happy.
Yeah.
She would never do this to our daughter. She would never leave her motherless. And her family backed it all up, too. They're like, listen, she's not depressed.
Right.
She's not on any medication. She doesn't drink.
Happy and successful.
Yeah, there's nothing. And Andy was really persistent. So the cops looked closer. Now, this all happens over the matter of a few days.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to derail too much from this, but I think where I just did the Cleveland Strangler case.
Oh, yeah.
It is a little bit like, oh, man. He just had to push it for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
And the cops took another look.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're white and
status.
Yeah. Well off and all those things. Yeah. But again, I'm happy that it worked out the way it did.
Right.
I'm not trying to take anything away from Andy and what happened, but it is like a little bit of
let's do better.
Stark contrast. It is also New York versus Cleveland cops. Who knows?
True.
Okay. So Andy was persistent and the cops decided they're going to take another look. That's when they find a sneaker print in the dust on the toilet in the bathroom where her body was found.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. So that shoe print matched shoe prints in another part of the building where there was construction work being done. There was an apartment that was being renovated on the day that she died.
Oh.
So that shoe print in her bathroom was on the toilet, which, why would they be standing up on the toilet?
Exactly.
Unless they're trying to put her up.
Yeah.
That led to the arrest of a 19-year-old construction worker from Ecuador named Diego Pilco. Once he was arrested, he confessed within hours.
Oh, my gosh.
The detective who got the confession did it by pointing out that Adrienne's daughter was the same age as Diego's niece. And I guess that was enough for him to just be like, okay,
oh, my gosh, I did it. Yeah.
He confessed to attacking Adrienne and staging it to look like a suicide.
My gosh.
So here's the first story he told.
Oh, there's multiple.
Mm-hmm. So the first story is Adrienne had come out there to complain that the construction was too noisy. And he threw a hammer at her.
Oh,
He didn't hit her,
gosh.
but he was just like annoyed and he threw the hammer at her. But then he started thinking like, oh no, what if she complains and then I lose my job? And then if I lose my job or if she complains and the police come, like I'll get deported because he's an undocumented immigrant. So he throws a hammer at her and then he immediately is like, oh no, what if she gets more upset? So then he follows her back to the apartment and he's like kind of like as she's going in, he's trying to like grab at her through the door. I don't know why he would be grabbing at her unless he's just trying to be like, hey,
come back.
And she slaps at him. So he responds by punching her in the face. And then she falls to the ground, hitting her head unconscious.
Oh my gosh.
Then he thought he'd killed her. So he hung her in the bathroom so it would look like a suicide.
Oh my God.
This version of events is not supported by evidence.
Right.
Because the cause of death was neck compression.
Uh-huh.
And there was no
bruising
severe head trauma.
Yeah.
So if she got hit hard enough to knock herself out,
there'd be evidence of that. Yeah.
So then he had a second version of events that came up during the trial. Pilco noticed Adrienne in the elevator when he was returning from his lunch break, and he decided to follow her and rob her. He snuck into her apartment to take her purse because the door was unlocked. So he let her go in, waited, and then snuck in. She caught him, red-handed, and threatened to call the police. Again, he has that fear of being deported.
Yeah.
So she grabs her phone. He takes her phone and he puts his hand over her mouth and is like, don't call the police. and covers her mouth as she starts to scream. And then there's this struggle, and she lost consciousness in this struggle.
Mm.
So then there's a bed sheet nearby, which he used to strangle her. Then he dragged her to the bathroom and hung her from the shower rod.
Good grief.
This version does match up with the evidence. The medical examiner found that Adrienne was still alive when she was hanged, which is just
horrible.
But it's almost like with his fear of being deported, the second she caught him, he was going to kill her.
Yeah.
Like,
there's no other way.
What else would he have done? Yeah. So, the other thing is, if he followed her to her apartment to rob her, then he knew she was there.
Exactly.
So why would he risk getting caught like that?
Yeah.
I just keep thinking, it never comes out that there's any sort of sexual component. And I don't think she was sexually assaulted. I think that would have come up. But I just wonder if he intended to. Right. I don't understand why he, if he was so afraid of being caught, why would he go in there knowing she was in there?
Exactly.
Okay. So Pilko pled guilty to first-degree manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 25 years in prison without parole, and then he's going to be deported to Ecuador upon his release from prison.
Okay.
At his sentencing, Andy, her husband, and other family members told Pilko they would never forgive him. Which I'm always moved when I see, family members forgive the person who murdered their loved one or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's also part of me that I was like,
good for you.
Yeah. There's part of me was just kind of like, good, don't forgive it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm just in support of doing whatever you personally can live with. Like, I don't want anybody to like forgive someone if they're not ready to.
Yeah.
Or to
just say that because they feel like that's what other people want them to say or feel.
You do what you worry about you is on his matters. But I was just like, when I saw that, I was like, don't forgive it. Okay. So then there are lawsuits. So Pilko had agreed to pay $12,000 in order to be smuggled into the United States. $12,000 US for an undocumented immigrant. Where in the world was he ever going to come up with that money?
Exactly.
I think he probably had to pay some of it for it to happen, right? But like, he still owed debt on it, which is why he had made a habit, he said, of like robbing people. Because he was trying to pay back his debt. $12,000. What a ridiculous system this is.
Yeah.
that just... Okay. So, he lived in the basement of a building owned by his employer, which also gives me questions. Opinions. I have opinions.
Allegedly.
And unsubstantiated thoughts about it. But I'm like, it's almost like an indentured servant type thing.
Exactly.
Like, we're going to bring you into this country.
You owe us everything.
And you're going to work until you pay off your $12,000 debt.
Yeah.
19-year-old kid who can't speak English. He doesn't
has
speak
nowhere
English.
else to go.
There's lots of problems. Okay. We can't solve all of them right now.
Yep.
But we're going to try.
We're working towards it.
So... A neighbor of Adrienne said that Pilko's stare made her uncomfortable whenever she walked past him. Basically, Andy's argument was Adrienne wouldn't have died if this general contractor hadn't hired Diego. So he's suing the general contractor. The lawsuit was dismissed. The judge was like, I completely sympathize with you. However, when we look at everything... There's no reason, like the contractors had no reason to believe that Pilko was dangerous.
Right, yeah.
So to say that like they
Even
should have
doing
known
things
he would
illegally,
kill someone. Yeah, like it's... So I get it. I get legally why it was dismissed. It's also very frustrating.
Right.
So the thing I keep going back to is this was 100% like going to be ruled a suicide. It was already the headline in the paper. It was done. Yeah. It was done. But Andy
insisted.
Kept fighting. And I just love that. So the legacy would have been suicide. Her daughter would have grown up thinking,
my mom did.
Yeah. And then what would that have done to her? To have that sort of like, that's the thing that happened in my family. How would that,
Was I not loved?
I also believe that I've said committed suicide a few times, which is a thing I'm really working on, because I've read a lot of things lately about how when you say commit suicide, it sounds like it's the same thing as saying commit murder. Like it sounds like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you would never say a person committed a heart attack or committed cancer, right? So they died by suicide is the way we're supposed to talk about it now. And I apologize for, I know a few times I've said committed. I was really trying to catch it.
Right.
Okay. So Andy, here's something he said about her that I just had to type out the full quote because it's so sweet. He said, another thing, her daughter, Sophie, was almost 3 when Adrienne died.
Oh,
she was so young. Okay, so Andy said, Adrienne was the kindest, warmest, most loving, generous person I knew. She was incredibly smart, funny, and talented, a bright light with an infectious laugh and huge smile that radiated inner and outer beauty. She was my best friend and the person with whom I was supposed to grow old.
Oh.
I know.
Oh.
So obviously the most important thing Andy did for his wife after her death was fight the suicide ruling. And then he kept on fighting to make sure people knew who she was and that she wasn't forgotten. He made this decision. He was like, I mean, at first he said there was really dark times. He would just like go in the closet, get all her clothes and just smell her, whatever. And then he's just like, I have to go on with my life. Like, I have to accept this. And the only way he could accept it is just to sort of be like, sometimes awful things happen. Yeah. And there's no reason and it's senseless, but life's not fair. And he had to take care of Sophie. Like, he's like, this is my daughter. And I had to make this decision to be like, we're going to be okay. Yeah. And if I let myself fall apart, what's going to happen to her? Like, I have to take care of her. He had to explain to Sophie what happened to her mom. She's not even 3. So he has to go home and give her a reason why her mom's not
isn't there. Coming home. Yeah.
And it's awful. He says, Mommy died. Her body stopped working. She's not coming home anymore.
Oh.
I think that is just one of the saddest. I've got chills right now. It's one of the saddest things I've ever heard. And he said that Sophie just like heard him and went over and looked out the window and was just like, Mommy's not coming home. And he was like, right. I mean, I just can't.
Oh, gosh.
It makes me want to cry right now.
Poor baby.
He also had a memorial dedicated to her on August 3rd, 2009. It was the Adrienne Shelly Garden, and it faces the building where she died. He established the Adrienne Shelly Foundation that has awards, scholarships, grants, finishing funds, and living stipends through partnerships with NYU, Columbia University, Women in Film, IFP, AFI, Sundance Institute, Tribeca Film Institute, and the Nantucket Film Festival.
Look at him.
I know. Like, he's really, because he knows the things that were important to her, that she loved, and he wants those things. He knows that it would make her happy that those things are still supported. Right. 2 people who've received grants from that. Cynthia Wade won an Academy Award in 2008 for her documentary Freeheld.
Wow.
And Chloe Zhao also would later become the 2nd woman in history to win the Academy Award for Best Director.
Oh my gosh.
And they were recipients of the Adrienne Shelly grant.
How awesome is that?
Don't you think that would make her so happy?
Yeah.
And then the last thing that Andy did was create a documentary about his wife. It's called Adrienne, and you can find it right now on HBO. It was released December 1st of last year on HBO. And his whole thing is just like, she's more than just a murder victim. Like, a lot of people might know her name in New York because of this. Mm-hmm. Right. And he didn't want that to be the reason that people knew her. So he went to the play when it was on Broadway, and he asked people, like, hey, do you know Adrienne Shelly? Do you know who that is? Her name was on the marquee and everything. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them were like, I have no idea. I've never heard of her. Which is just like, oh, God, you are going to see her play.
Yeah.
But again, I thought it was Sarah Bareilles' play. Like, everybody says, even when you read articles about it now, it's like Waitress. Sarah Bareilles is Waitress by Sarah Bareilles. And it's like, she wrote the music. But she didn't write that story.
Right.
You know? I've been obsessed with the Waitress forever, and I had no idea. I didn't know who Adrienne Shelly was either. So the whole reason I found out who she was is because when I was at the play looking at the program, I saw that it was dedicated to Adrienne Shelly. And I was like, who's Adrienne Shelly? And I look it all up, and that's how I found all this.
Oh, my gosh.
And of course, as soon as I saw it,
you're like, I've got to do this.
I'm going to do this episode. So
Wow. What?
So he's asking people if they know who she was. He says no. Or they say no. So he's just like, I'm going to do something about this.
Yeah.
So the documentary opens with scenes from a Halloween party that it's like a home video things. It's a Halloween party from the night before she died. Because remember, it was November 1st.
Yeah.
So, and he has this voiceover where he says, "This Halloween was ours. I went to bed that night the luckiest guy alive.
Yeah.
By the next night, I was living the worst nightmare imaginable."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
So in the documentary, Andy goes to visit Diego in prison.
Okay.
And it is intense. When he goes there, he basically is like, I want to know exactly what happened that day. So he sits down with Diego, and they have an interpreter there. And Diego explains, he was looking for someone to rob because of this huge debt that he has. I don't mean that makes it, that's not an excuse at all, but I'm just saying these are the circumstances. And so he describes how he's looking for someone to rob and how Adrienne had caught him in the act. And he says, the lady came out and ran after me. This is all on camera. And he doesn't, he spares no details. He gives all the details. They're on camera right there to Andy. And Andy and the translator were both obviously just
oh my gosh,
horrified.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, when she started yelling at me, the only word that I could understand was police. She reached for her phone and he grabs it, covers her mouth, and starts choking her with that one hand. So then when he let her go, her lips were blue. And he thought, oh, I killed her. That's what he says all this to Andy. He's like, yeah, I could tell she was dead because her lips were blue. And I was like, oh, I killed her.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being that interpreter and having to tell this man everything?
Yeah. And the interpreter is just like, oof. So then he dragged her to the bathroom, made a noose out of the sheet, and hung her from the shower rod. And there's this long pause. And Andy leans close to him and he said, did you think you'd gotten away with it? And Diego said, yes.
Oh my gosh.
But he didn't.
You didn't.
Andy's amazing.
Sitting in jail.
Yeah. He would have, if Andy hadn't thrown a fit.
Yeah.
So then another thing that happened during that visit is Andy makes Diego look at pictures of Adrienne because he's like, I don't want him to just think of Adrienne as this screaming woman in an apartment. She was this brilliant, beautiful, creative person with this full life who loved people and people loved her.
Robbed her of that.
Yeah. So he's like, I want Diego to know she's a mother, a wife, a daughter, and a sister. She's not just this screaming woman who caught you. So he showed him pictures of Adrienne as she grew up and then pictures of Sophie as she grew up. And he had all these milestones of here's the first birthday after Adrienne died. No mom for Sophie. And here's her most recent birthday. Still no mom. You know, really making the point that Sophie's missed all these things that she should have had with a mother. Diego had no reaction through the whole thing. But then as he was being led back to his cell, he mumbled, I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
So, I'm reading this last part. It's straight from an article about the documentary. It's in the Daily Beast from November 15th, 2021 by Nick Shager. Like I said, the documentary is on HBO. Look it up. But I loved this so much that I just have to read it word for word. About the documentary. That unresolvable torment is ultimately the most resonant chord struck by Adrienne, the documentary. No matter how much Ostroy, which is Andy's last name, valiantly tries to turn his documentary into an uplifting memorial, he can't escape the sadness of his spouse's tale. And that's to the proceedings' benefit. There's an honesty to the film's forthright recognition that closure and healing are just words designed to suggest fantasies of recovery that can't ever be fully realized.
Wow.
The scars of losses like this run so deep and shape lives so profoundly that they're always there, coloring one's thoughts and actions. Ostroy and Sophie seem at peace with the understanding that what was taken from them can never be regained, and that they've become fundamentally different people because of it. And it's in that honest portrait of catastrophe and its lingering aftermath that Adrienne makes its own admirable mark.
Oh,
I thought that was just the most beautiful paragraph.
it really is.
And sad and poignant and just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, they were married for 12 years before she died.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he is just basically, since she's died, he's devoted his life to taking care of Sophie.
And her legacy.
And honoring her legacy.
Yeah.
Which is just incredible.
Yeah.
His dedication to her even after she's gone.
Yeah.
So, that's Adrienne Shelly, you guys.
That was so good. Waitress. Go watch the documentary, Adrienne, and go see
Watch the
Waitress.
movie.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure we can find the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. So, okay, that's all.
Okay. That's it, guys.
Don't forget, if you're in the Janice level, to join us tonight for the live chat.
Oh my gosh,
at
it's going to be
8
fun.
p.m. Eastern. What else do we have? If you'd like to send us any stories or get in touch with us for any reason, all of our contact information is in the show notes.
On the show notes.
All the sources for this episode are in the show notes.
As always.
And if you have never taken the time to leave a review, we'd love for you to do so. We always love hearing from you guys. Oh, join the Facebook group.
Oh, yeah. If you have Facebook, get on there.
It's my
so
favorite.
fun.
I mean,
Everybody's
a lot of
so-
people are like, I hate Facebook, and I understand that.
Just join it for that.
Yeah,
you
just
don't
come
have
to
to
our
even
group.
have friends. You can just join our group.
Yeah, that's the fun
We'll
part.
be your friends.
It's a good reason to be on Facebook.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
All right. We love you.
So much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. So much.